during episodes
Yeah,
sometimes.
because sometimes you just don't have the answers, and that's okay. So we started with conflict. We started with dragons. We started with no magic.
Yeah, we said no. Yeah, pretty much no magic. Because a lot, and that's the other thing. You don't, like Ali said before, you don't need to have everything set in stone. So, I think Sarah's character had something to do with magic. She had ideas, and I was like, okay, well,
she wanted magic, and so we all agreed that she would have it to a degree. It just wouldn't be like a D&D type of magic where she was slinging spells,
Exactly. And that's, to me, and nothing against, obviously, D&D or the spells or anything. I feel like I have to keep saying that. It's the same thing with combat. Is it just gives you like almost an answer key of things to do. And we didn't want that. We want, we want to be thinking about, all right, what would this character actually do? If I was this character, what's the next step? What do I want to do? Like, what's my ultimate goal? How do I feel about this NPC or this other player? They didn't even start off together, the whole party. They all had their separate kind of scenes.
Yeah, we didn't meet Sarah until the second episode.
Episode 2, yeah.
But that's hours of gameplay when you think about it, though. I mean, Mitch and I didn't meet until the end of the first game, and then the second one, we didn't meet till the end of the second one with Sarah. So, we could have gone a whole campaign without even seeing each other if we really, if we really wanted to.
Because that's the other thing. It's we do it as almost like you're writing a book or doing like a TV series.
Chapters.
Yeah, chapters. I think even in the actual
system,
the Burning Wheel system, I think it refers to like scenes as opposed to, or something like that. So they give you the idea of your kind of setting.
Yeah, you're not stuck in this sort of like literal sense of like, oh, and you wake up and you go to bed and you wake up. Like we're not role playing all of that stuff out.
Yeah.
So all right, what was our next point of world building? And I think that a really good point to start with is most societies, fictional and real, are based on religion and politics.
Yes.
So even if you're not super religious or super political, you do know enough to know that that's sort of how the world works. That's how the world goes round.
Exactly. So you need something like that in your game that makes sense to the players and makes sense to if you plan on like streaming or anything, it has to make sense to the audience too. Because you have to remember that, it's easy if you're sitting in a room and you're kind of talking about everything and stuff like that. But if it doesn't make sense, it's going to be hard to kind of follow. That's my problem with a lot of campaigns that I tried to watch on like YouTube, is I didn't understand the world enough to kind of follow the story or end up caring about the characters ultimately.
Yeah. So I think we started more with, we had a general story, and I mean, we're not going to tell you how to write a story and an idea, because it took a lot on our end to go back and forth between what type of story do we want to tell? Where do we want to tell it? What emotions do we want to elicit from our characters? All that type of stuff. But we sort of took a step back and we started with politics, and we decided to link our politics to dragons.
Yeah.
That was how it started. We were like, well, what makes us different than D&D and Game of Thrones? And there is a little bit of linking like politics with dragons in Game of Thrones. A little bit with Daenerys.
Yeah, just not as upfront in your face as we...
Right.
Like, for us, it's pretty much like the building blocks for what society is in our campaign now. Like the people in power are in power because they were chosen by the dragons, and the dragons aren't your typical dragons. They have a place in the world, in the building of the world as well, which is definitely something I didn't think would happen in the beginning, but I'm happy it did, because it adds like a whole nother,
layer of issues. And that was something that we went back and forth a lot about. And world building is not easy, and it's not like a clean process by any means. It is... I don't want to say arguing, but especially if you're doing it with a lot of people, it's a lot of opinions that you have to kind of get through, and you have to reason. And I thought it was really good to have 4 people, because we all have typically Scala and I would side together on a lot of things, and Mitch and Sarah would side together on a lot of it's just because of the way that we think, like we have similar opinions on things like that. But it was really good to see like Sarah's point of view on something when I would bring something up, and the issues that she had with it, and vice versa. I remember going back and forth a lot, you and I with Mitch and Sarah